Last week, we started our study on the 6 harmonies of Tai Chi, and we looked at the 3 external harmonies. Shoulders harmonize with the hips, elbows harmonize with the knees, and hands harmonize with the feet. Today, we're going to move on to the 3 internal harmonies. And as you're going to see, all 6 of these harmonies work together. So even though we're looking at them separately, they really come together. And I want you to think about first, as we start to investigate the internal harmonies, I want you to think about the 3 C's of coordination, cooperation, and connectedness. Because that really puts the 6 harmonies together, making your movement effective, not only effective in terms of a martial arts standpoint, but also effective in the standpoint of bringing you the benefits of Tai Chi. So the 3 internal harmonies, I'm going to state it the way they're stated first, and then I'm going to do a Dianne translation. So the spirit, and that does not mean the divine spirit, it doesn't mean a soul, it just means like the heart, moves into intention. And intention moves into energy or chi. And energy moves into strength or movement. So that's what those 3 internal harmonies are. Now, for a Dianne translation, I like to say motivation moves into focus, moves into action. And if you think about it in ways of the motivation, that's the spirit of the heart of wanting to do something, that desire to get something accomplished. That's that motivation. But it needs to move into a focus, a concentration, where you're actually understanding what you're going to be doing and utilizing the right tools, strategizing appropriately. You know, that's focusing, that's concentrating on what actually needs to be happening. And then that moves into actually putting it into action, actually putting that movement so that it is coordinated with your intent, your mind, your intention, utilizing your energy properly, utilizing the right strategy so that your action can be effective. Now, clearly, you have to have those external harmonies along with the internal harmonies to make your action effective. Right? So that's why we can't truly separate them out. But if you think about now about motivation, if you think about, I really want to win a fight, I'm in a sparring match. But if all I had was motivation and I didn't have any strategy, I didn't have any working on technique, I didn't have any thought of the external harmonies, it would do me no good. Really, just to have the motivation to get into the fight. You have to have that motivation going into focus, concentration, understanding how the energy is flowing through your body, how to put that energy into your opponent to push your opponent away or to win the fight. You also have to have enough strength in your body. You have to understand where that strength is coming from. You're not just using your hands to hit, you're actually using your whole body, moving from the Dantian, understanding that the Dantian is the leader. All of your power comes from this central region. So let's look at brush knee first. I'm going to step back this way. And let's do a little review of those external harmonies. Shoulders in harmony with hips, elbows in harmony with the knees, hands in harmony with the feet. Taking a nice deep breath in, stepping out. Remember that foot lands just a split second before the hands make impact, because you have to be rooted and grounded to be effective. brush knee, then remembering your substantial and insubstantial changes, moving forward, brush knee. Keeping the Dantian as the leader helps you keep your shoulders in harmony with your hips, helps your feet and hands be in harmony, your elbows and knees. Because if you're moving from the Dantian, you're not going to overreach like this. You're not going to be in a strange, awkward, unbalanced position if this is the leader. Stepping out, brush, knee. Feel that harmony, feel just the external harmony, that you feel completely balanced, you feel in control, you feel like you could actually use this against an opponent. Now add the idea of, I do want to use it against an opponent. I need to focus what I'm doing, making sure I'm understanding that energy flowing up from the ground through the Dantian, being expressed out through the hands. And then actually putting that desire into action, utilizing those external harmonies, concentrating, getting that energy flowing, utilizing the strength of the movement. One more. Now I want to do a different move with that idea, repulse the monkey. Remember we talked about last week that as we push away from our opponent, we better have that back foot in contact with the ground so that we can rotate from the Dantian and still be balanced. There's no way to push off your opponent and then rotate. That has to be coordinated. Your body has to be cooperating with itself. But you also have to connect the idea of this big ball of energy right here. You're compressing it down until right at the point where you need to push off and push that opponent away from you, and utilizing that energy. You have a strategy, you have a focus. Obviously, repulse the monkey, you're stepping away from your opponent. You're breaking that grip that they have on your hand. Sometimes that's the correct strategy, to get away from your opponent. But it's not always the correct strategy. Sometimes moving into your opponent is a better strategy. And think about what we do with high pat on horse as we move into our opponent. It's almost the exact same move of repulse the monkey, only we're not going backwards, we're moving into our opponent. You know, if you have a much taller, someone who is much taller than you that you're fighting, you don't want to be at the end range of their limbs. There's a lot of power, there's a lot of torque that happens at that end range. So if you're shorter, like I am, you learn to move in and crowd that opponent so that those limbs, that end range, can't be harming you. So sometimes the right strategy, that focus, that concentration of the fight, that's part of that internal harmony. You understand, I need to move in here instead of moving backwards. Let's do ward off together. Taking a nice deep breath in, stepping out, ward off. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing chi. Now remember, we've talked about the different energies that are happening in ward off. Remember, the actual ward off here is pong. Grasp the bird's tail. Now this roll back is lu. This is your yielding. Same thing as possibly you're not going away from your opponent, you're going into your opponent. Now, instead of bringing your energy always at your opponent, you're yielding that energy. And then you come back with Ji, this is the press. And then on for your pushing Qi. There's all kinds of different energies expressed in just that one sequence of movements. It's a great way to practice thinking about what's my strategy? Should I use on? Should I use that more forceful Ji? Do I need to yield? All of these things come together. Let's do ward off on both sides of the body now. Try to harmonize not only external, but utilize that internal harmony of, I'm motivated, I have the desire to do this, to come against my opponent. What strategy is best? And how do I utilize my energies to put that action, put that strategy into action? Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing Qi. Remember, I'm still keeping my shoulders in harmony with my hips. I'm allowing my Dianne to be the leader. My hands are harmonizing with my feet. Elbows harmonizing with the knees. I'm going to choose to use the press into my opponent here. And then I choose to use on as the most effective next movement. I would challenge you to spend 10 minutes. It doesn't sound very long, but it's actually pretty difficult to spend 10 minutes doing the ward off sequence and trying to focus those internal harmonies and marry them with the external harmonies. It's a great practice to really get your mind involved in what you're doing with your Tai Chi. One of the explanations of the 3 internal harmonies that I saw, one said, spirit really means the heart, the emotional mind, and intent really means the wisdom mind. So thinking about it that way, you're marrying that emotion, that desire, that motivation with wisdom of what you're doing, being able to strategize, being able to choose which movement is best against my opponent. Let's do kick, smash, and box the ears, just because that one is so clearly a martial arts move, right? It's so very clear what you're doing, kicking, bringing the opponent's shoulder and head into your knees, and then finishing them off, right? If you think about those external harmonies, internal harmonies, put them all together as you kick with your whole body. This is a coordination, a cooperation, and a connectedness of everything about the fight. It has to all come together in just the right sequence, just the right balance, just the right energy flow in order to be effective. And that's really what we're trying to do with our movement, right? Is to be effective, not only as a martial arts application, but also to bring the benefits of Tai Chi to ourselves. We want to be more balanced. We want to be more relaxed, lowering our stress and anxiety, getting our mind involved with what our body's doing, which actually helps our mind become sharper. All of these things come together by thinking about that coordination, cooperation, and connectedness of the 6 harmonies, bringing it into effective movement. Now, one last thing about Tai Chi is a system that teaches you how to address an opponent. And I've said it many times, I like to think of an actual opponent. I've done many fights in my life. I like sparring, but you don't always have to think of the fight as another person. You can think of the fight as something as simple as I'm trying to keep myself under control when I'm dealing with my boss who really irritates me. That can be a fight that you can utilize the idea of I'm going to calm myself down, I'm going to use the right strategies, I'm going to focus, I'm not going to let my emotional mind take over, I'm going to coordinate with my wisdom mind. So you can think about the fight in that way. It will help you in your everyday life.